Welcome aboard the channel, guys. I'm Evan Singer, one of the co-hosts of the Par Train podcast, and today's episode is a real banger, okay? Before we get to it, in case you're new, welcome aboard. We help frustrated golfers enjoy the ride again, and we unpack the mental game with anyone from a PGA Tour pro to someone like you and me. Okay, this week's episode is with Chris Naegel, PGA Tour pro. The guy is a Monday qualifying machine. It is so hard to Monday qualify on the PGA Tour, and this guy did it 3 or 4 times in a row in the 2022 PGA Tour season. We'll get to that in a second. If you guys like this episode, hop aboard that subscribe train, give us a comment, like the video, and hope you enjoy the ride. Thanks, guys. Chris Naegel, PGA Tour pro and fellow St. Louis native. Welcome aboard again. Second time on the train. We're excited to have you, Chris.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
What's up, Chris?
So we're going to get into the last month. We're going to talk about a lot of things with your game. But first, maybe the most important thing to talk about, Chris, is Ryan, Cermak, and I just played golf at my bachelor party last weekend at Cabo. I don't know if you've ever played La Quivera, but you've probably seen the crazy fifth hole where the par 4 is on a cliff. It's this drivable par 4 where it's basically like an island par 4 green on a cliff that you can drive. And Ryan, he shot 6 under on the back 9, and he was telling everybody in Cabo. I'm just curious if he's told you yet. I want to see if he's told everyone back in St. Louis or if he was just telling everybody in Cabo.
Yeah, it's been a bit much.
I have not heard it, but that's some good shooting. I don't care where you're at. That's great playing.
Cermak was on my team. Cermak went 3 under, and we got blitzed.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's tough hearing from Rye. He won't stop. But
I'm sure there's some presses out too.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, he presses. He loves the press. So, Chris, every time we've talked to you, this is now our second time. You've torn it up. A couple US Opens, various PGA Tour events. We were curious, do you think we talked to you because you tear it up, or are you tearing it up because you're talking to us?
Maybe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. It could be that train
I'll
vibes.
talk to you guys as long as I keep playing well.
Okay, well, we've got a unique opportunity today. You're at the Barbasol right now. You Monday qualified. And I was curious, Chris, does this week feel different as a player with all the big names at the Open? And does it help seeing those Barbasol cans on the tee box? It's got to help free you up, right?
It's nice.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at it as another tournament. To me, it doesn't really matter who's playing.
Yeah.
If you start, picking out who's here and who's not here, I don't know, it just takes away from what I'm trying to do. So
yeah,
I don't really, it doesn't bother me who's here, who's not here. I just kind of look at it like that.
Yeah. Well, Chris, to ask you just a real simple question, what's your goal for this week?
I've had my goals change every week, it seems like, but I think the goal that it stands the test of time. If I can have fun this week, I'll play well, and that kind of seems to take care of itself. So I don't have like, oh, I want to finish top 10 or I want to make the cut, or I don't have those goals. I just, I can't control, bad bounces, good breaks, or, I can just control myself having fun. And if I have fun, I tend to play well.
So that's great. So Chris, that's something you try to work on a little bit or get back to throughout the year, is just remind yourself, sorry for the dog in the back here, just to have fun.
Yeah, it's simple. I mean, I try not to complicate it. When I do complicate it, it never goes as planned. So
yeah,
I just try to have fun. That was the whole, premise to go heading into the US Open, just have fun, enjoy the week, and, didn't have any goals there. Just enjoy it, have fun. And same thing at the John Deere, and same thing this week.
What helps you have fun? Like, is it, do you talk about non-golf stuff with your caddy? Is it about hitting shots? Like, for those that get too in their head out there, what is a good way for you to have fun?
Yeah. So I got a buddy on the bag, Michael Wellington, who's always, he's always good for some stories that, is going to make the the mood light and keep you entertained. So never a dull moment. Golf is kind of, obviously it's what we're here to do, but it's, the stories are more off the course related than on the course related.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, Chris, because I was joking with Ryan, our mutual buddy, that when we plan our member guests together, we get way too, like, we try and grind for 6 hours, and we're always trying to just make things happen. And I was like, Ryan, this year we should have some go-to stories, some things that we know from knowing each other our whole lives that will just make us laugh and keep us light, and try not and talk about golf while we're playing. Over the shot, let's laser in, but in between, have some fun,
100%. There's so much downtime between shots. So if you're thinking golf when you're hitting the shot and then thinking golf in between shots, I don't know, just tends not to go well.
Yeah.
My experience.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny too, because Serm, like we've said this so many times on the show, I think one of the easiest trap that people say or do is, well, once I start riding the par train, I'll enjoy the ride. But actually you have to enjoy the ride, and then it's easier to ride the par train, which is kind of what you just said. You're trying to ride the birdie train.
You're trying to ride the birdie and eagle train, but for our listeners, we like the par train.
Yeah, absolutely.
The birdie train doesn't allow a lot of us on for very long, right? So we're trying to let people ride for multiple holes, start to get comfortable, But Chris, back in October 2020, I re-listened to our conversation this morning, and I don't know, you probably don't know this, but you coined a phrase that I would say, Serm, keep me honest, is probably a top 5 thing that we hear from our listeners the most, which is this idea of being aggressively conservative. That really struck a chord with a lot of people, and I think it's a really simple way to think about how to play better golf. Yeah. Is that something that still is a key for you of how you think your way around the course?
100%. I explain to people periodically that, I might have shot 65, but I only hit it like 3 flags that day. It's 15 feet to the left of it or 10 feet to the right of it. It's never like right at it unless you're perfect and there's nothing around it. It's going to get you in trouble. You don't have to hit it to 3 feet to make a birdie. So I feel like I'm a pretty decent putter. So I'll take my chances from, 10 to 25 feet all day long.
Yeah. Chris, I was having a conversation with one of my buddies who's like a 18-20 handicap. And he's like, I'm going for too many pins. I'm like, yeah. And it's easy to go for pins because we all have made a birdie in our life. Like you have a bad hole and you hit a great drive and you feel like you're in position, but that pin's a little tucked. And it's like, well, I need to get it back, but you can't get it back. What's done is done from hole 5 to hole 6. So, I mean, talk about that. Just always staying in the moment, in the present on that shot in that hole, because that's really all you can do, but it's tough.
Sure. It's definitely a mental battle. Yeah, you can't control what's already been done and what's in the future. Only, what you're doing present. I kind of go back to, I haven't told the story a lot, but my buddy Sean Jasper, when he was playing golf, we played one day out at Boone Valley in the winter, and they didn't have flags. And we just played, we wanted to play. It was like 50 degrees and we played, and he ended up shooting like 7 under par with no flag sticks. You just hit it to the middle of every green, see if you can hoop a putt. And that stuck with me for ever since. I was like, wow, it's, amazing.
That's all you can control. Middle of the green all day.
Yeah.
Chris, I don't know if you know him. Do you know Matt Picanso?
Mm-mm.
By chance? Okay. So he's been like a big mini tour guy for a long time. And he started, I think, a little bit late. He started when he was 30. I think he's 39 now. But we had him on the show last week, and he said something that really stuck with me. What I got from him was confidence cannot come from seeing great shots. Like you have to practice being confident and believe and reiterate and affirm that you're good enough. And I think he won the second round of Q School and got to the finals. And even after winning, he got to the finals, saw, big names, big guys, and started questioning himself again. And so it's a constant practice. How does that resonate with you? Because, you're out there making a living and some days you don't feel great over the ball. So how do you practice your confidence or try and maintain confidence, even when you're not seeing the shots you want to see?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I mean, we do it every day. So for him or for myself to say that, there's days where you feel like you never played the game before, the average player is going to be, totally worse. It's I always tell people, I feel like I know if I have it in the first couple of 3 holes, the day I'm playing. And if I don't feel like I have it, I kind of go a little more conservative than I would, instead of going 10 feet, I might go 25 feet. And, if I can hit my spots and hit good putts, that kind of builds confidence. And maybe by the 7th or 8th hole, I've kind of changed the mood or the day. It's kind of just being aware of how your body's feeling, what you're thinking, how things are shaping up.
Just not fighting it, right?
Right. Not fighting it. I mean, you can go out and shoot 65 one day and the next day peel off a 74 and you're like, what just happened? It's a funny game.
Yeah. Well, Chris, to kind of pivot a little bit, you've had such great success in Monday qualifiers, and would love for you to kind of talk through what a Monday qualifier is like for our listeners. Are you familiar with them? Maybe you're the Monday qualifier master. I mean, you just really know how to go out there and just slinging around and make putts. But tell us about the Monday qualifier, the vibe, the guys that are there, and what is it about it that feels, I don't want to say natural, but feels pretty good for you?
Yeah. The Monday shooters are, filled with, 60 to 100 guys on PGA Tour, even more for Korn Ferry. But I would say each Monday you only got there's about 25 guys that have a chance. There's a lot of guys that are good players that can shoot 2-3 under, but may not, be able to push through. I've always thought that the Monday courses are obviously easier than the tournament course. You're not going to see deep rough. You're not going to see fast green. So it's an easier setup. So, there's a bunch of birdies to be made.
Sure.
I feel like for me, when I approach it, my goal is to make 9 birdies. If I can birdie half the holes, I have a serious chance. Now, a lot of times I don't make 9 birdies, but that's my goal, to get to 9 birdies, I have a pretty good chance of getting through. So that's kind of how I look at it. I just say, I'm going to go out and try to make 9 birdies. And, if I fall short and make 7, still got a chance. 6, maybe a playoff. If I make 9 and I don't get in, then maybe we should do something different.
So Chris, that's a good example
my approach
of what you said. Goals change week to week, depending on, because like you said, it's at a different course, typically easier. So that goal is 9 birdies for the day, as opposed to maybe having fun for the weekend. Is that fair, or is there crossover?
That's absolutely fair, because my goal today is not to go out and make 9 birdies. It's to,
right,
one shot at a time. It's a 72 hole event where Monday is 18 holes. That's all you got.
Yeah, that's a
cool. You got to do it then.
That's a great look in. Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of how amateurs play scrambles. So have you ever noticed that when you play a scramble,
yeah, it's fair.
Everyone's like, I've noticed that like on approach shots and short game shots, you normally put it pretty close, but because it's a scramble, you're like, oh, that's not good enough. We need like a tap, right? But you end up shooting better because you're trying to make it, which is kind of like a similar idea for you, Chris, to the average guy.
For sure. Yeah. It's not like you're charging the putts, but you're not scared to hit it 3 feet by.
Yeah.
Right.
Where 72 hole event, your pace might be a little more of a drip speed.
Right. So people can understand, because I don't even know this. Is there a limit? Like how do you get into a Monday qualifier? Like what's the max number? How does that whole process work?
Just pay your money. They'll gladly take anybody who wants to pay the fee.
And how much
It's
does it
it's a nice
cost?
fee typically.
It's there's like 15 different categories from, if you're a PGA Tour member, it doesn't cost you a thing, to all the way up to I think amateurs are like $500. So it's
Okay.
all across the borders. Like if you have status somewhere, it might be 300 or 100, or there's all kinds of categories.
Got it.
So it
And
can
where,
get pricey after a while.
yeah, for sure. Where does that money go?
It goes to the section, and I think a little bit to the either Corn Ferry or PGA Tour, but I think
Okay.
mostly to the section. And then the course gets like the green fees, and so everybody's making a little bit.
Chris, do you think that the difference between a guy that can do 2 to 3 under, like you referenced, to 9 under, like you, is mental, or is it their game physically?
Probably a little bit of both, right?
Yeah, I'd say both. When I first got going in pro golf, doing the Mondays, I didn't have much success. I was peeling off those 2 to 4 unders, and just wasn't quite there. Didn't have the experience, and kind of, not gonna say I didn't have the belief, but I kind of was like, searching, what do I need to do to, make 2 more, 3 more. Just for me, it was just over time and gaining that experience and just knowing what to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's experience is big. My older brother, Joe, who we've had on the show, he played on the Canadian tour and Hooters tour for about 3 years, got hurt and then kind of hung it up. Sometimes you just need time. Not saying he could have been a PGA Tour player, but like, you've got to take it. You got to learn it, especially in different tours and different environments. Right. And it's your living proof of it's like how much better you got, and time helps. And obviously the practice that you put in.
Sure. Yeah. Time is essential for me. As I've, the year after year played more, I've kind of learned and understood what to do, what I need to do. It's kind of like, I guess, building a business. When you're first in business, you're not very good at it. But if you're in business for 10 years, you're probably pretty good at it by then. These guys that come out and go right to the tour, they're kind of they're a rare breed. They're special players. They've been playing since they were 2, or, it's not, I'm not going to say it's not common, but like, that's few and far between. A lot of the guys you see out there now, they played mini tours or whatever for 4 to 6 years before they kind of broke through. And once they learned it, they got it and off to the races.
Yeah. I mean, sir, think about our podcast 6 years ago. Today's actually our 6-year anniversary of our first podcast.
Sounds a lot better now than it did.
Yeah. Don't listen to the first one. All right. It's bad. It's real bad.
That's what they say. They say everybody's first podcast is terrible if you go back and listen to it. But obviously, over time, you know where you want to go and how to do it and what you need to do. And, here you are 6 years later. So,
yeah.
So, Chris, when I hear you talk, to me, what I hear is it's the combination of self-belief. Last time you talked about, I've done it before. I've been here before. I can play with these guys, but also the self-belief with the detachment of knowing you're going to play your best when you have fun. So you're placing your goal on what frees you up in the past to play great. Whereas a lot of people that might have the belief, that belief can get counteracted by trying too hard, wanting it too bad. So it's almost like, and keep me honest, are those two things in line with what you're feeling? Because you kind of need both of those. You can't have one or the other.
100%. You can't force it. I think a lot of guys force it. They say, okay, I got into a PGA Tour event. I have to play good this week. Right. Well, now you've just added pressure to yourself.
Yeah.
I got into a PGA Tour event. I want to go out and have fun. If I do that, I tend to play well. It's not a guarantee. It's not a lock, but there's a significant better chance that I'm going to play well.
Well, Chris, you just had a great week recently at the John Deere in Silvis. It's such a fun course. Play junior tournaments there. Talk us talk us through that week. I mean, it's so cool to watch you, and now you've got another great chance this week. So it's just talk us through.
Yeah, so I obviously Mondayed in again there. I had my family come up on Wednesday because they have this event called the Big Dig.
I saw that. It's
And
cool.
you get to go out to the test facility at John Deere, and they let you, they tell you how it works, and they just let you go. So I got 3 little boys, so they're gonna
Perfect.
geek out. We turn the corner, they see this big bulldozer, and they're just like, they're so excited, they're shaking. So like, I was more excited about the week for them to come up and see that than maybe actually playing the event. And then, so we did that on Wednesday night, and they went back on Thursday morning, and I was just kind of do my thing that, have a low key week. Got some friends in the area. It's not far from St. Louis, so a lot of people came up to watch. And so yeah, it was just a fun week. Got to see some people I hadn't seen in a while that came over from Chicago and Iowa. And then my oldest son and wife came back up on Saturday. The 2 little ones went to the lake with grandma and grandpa. So yeah, it was just a good week. Like, it was fun. It was more maybe centered around family, and I enjoy being around my family. That's probably the not most people don't like being around their family nowadays, it seems like, but I actually enjoy mine. So
good.
That's fun for me. And then played well.
So what happened with down the stretch? Were you thinking about top 10? Because I'm trying to remember, what were your days per day? What did you shoot each day?
I shot 5 under, 5 under, 3 under, 4 under, and then 2 over. The last day I made nothing. I actually thought the greens were a little slower on Sunday than they were the whole week. Which is odd, and maybe just the areas I was putting from. So I wasn't making anything, and I knew a little bit what was going on. Like, people were like, what about the Open? I said, well, if I get in the Open, great. If I don't, great. That's
Right.
not going to affect me one way or the other at this point. I got a little frustrated on Sunday with the putter, and I think I was a little mentally worn down. Physically, I was fine.
Yeah.
But mentally, I think I was a little worn down. Because on Monday, I had to go out and grind it just to get in the event. So it's a long week. Yeah, I think the last 10 holes, I was just tired mentally. It took me, I did notice it took me a little longer to get yardages than it normally did. I had to double check a few of them. So that tells me I'm a little tired mentally. So, I mean, I wouldn't say there's any negative. Yeah, I bogeyed 2 of the last, or 4 of the last 5 or something like that, but I wouldn't take any negative from that week. It was a good week.
Oh, for sure. No reason to. I mean, one round of golf is a mental challenge. So, I mean, 4 rounds of just in the tournament, you had your Monday qualifier and you had a practice round in there. It's always perspective, right? Even for the best players in the world, or for yourself. You're going to get,
for sure.
You just can get worn down, and it's just battling through that. Right.
Right. And it's more like a lot of guys are fine physically. It's the mental part of it that, strays a little bit. We're conditioned to walk 72 holes, swing a golf club, do all that. But you're putting your mind through the grinder for 5.5 hours every day. It kind of wears on you.
Yeah.
What do you do to stay fresh mentally? Is it just trying to not think golf in between shots and stay loose in between, or what are some things that's helped you stay fresh mentally?
Yeah. So like at night, I get away from golf. Like, people ask me, did you watch this tournament? Did you see this? And I no, I don't watch golf on TV. Like, I play it, so I don't need to watch it. Like, I'll watch the majors. It's interesting to me, but I'm not going to go watch a random, event. And there's nothing against the event. I've probably been at the golf course, and that's the last thing I want to do is go watch more of it. So like, having these 3 boys is amazing. they're wild, they're fun. They keep my mind off golf. So that's my deal there. That
I mean,
keeps me.
there's Nerf gun wars. I follow you. I see
mean,
those wars at the house.
I mean, yeah, we my middle one, he's getting some like armor, so he's getting kitted out for his Nerf gun. Next week's his 5th birthday, so it's gonna get real. But yeah, I like doing that stuff. I like cooking. On the green egg, that takes me away from golf.
I mean, at some point, like we work on mental tactics, strategies for the course, but at some point you got to put all that away, right? It's just like, you got to do things that make you happy and de-stress. And those can just drive real benefits for not only for your life, but for your game too. I think it's just easy to forget about sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I got off the social media. I got Instagram still, but I got off like the Twitter and the other stuff a while ago, and life's been so much better.
Less distractions, right?
Less distractions. It's, you don't go down these rabbit holes. So, but I guess there's all kinds of tricks, but for me, just doing other things, non-golf related.
Well, Chris, I love picking up on things that pros do that amateurs don't. And there's 2 things I just picked out. One was pros don't aim at the flag, amateurs do. We've talked about that many times. The other thing is, and I fall in this bucket. I was just talking to Serm off air about this because I tend to roll the face open. And when I start seeing that right miss, I know it's a face issue, and I can start getting really technical, and I'm grinding at the range, and I'm getting way too player side instead of target side. But everything you just said is thinking less about the game. And some people might be listening and say, well, that's easy for a +8, +9 handicap, whatever you are, a tour pro. But maybe that's what also helps you get to that level, is thinking less about what you're doing.
And on top of that, to come back fresh the next day for that practice session, right? Or for that round.
Sure. Yeah, there's definitely time for, like, I go through mechanics and work on my technique and try to hone my skills in, but that's a very short amount of time in my practice each day. Like, that might be 10 or 15 minutes, and then I go to, okay, I'm trying to hit a low cut or a high draw or a medium straight ball, or you do those mechanics to make sure you're in decent positions, but then you got to hit the shot. So I put more emphasis on, if I can, Tiger always talked about if he could hit his 9 shots, the low fade, medium fade, high fade, and all the way around to the draws. If you can hit those, your golf swing is in a pretty good position, and now you just go play. You just hit those shots when you're on the golf course. And so I put more emphasis on, hitting shots than mechanics, where I would say the amateur is constantly worried. They hit one bad shot and they think they got to rework their whole golf swing.
Right.
Where if you watch golf on TV, those guys hit it all over the place. They just recover better than everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
one swing doesn't define them. Yeah.
Yeah. Chris, how did the John Deere feel different? Obviously, it's an entirely different tournament than Southern Hills US Open, right? Par is a great score at a US Open, but just as a player playing them so close apart, what was there different? How did that impact you mentally? Did they feel similar? Did you take a totally different approach?
Yeah, because the John Deere, that the score is going to be 20 plus to win. So it's not a, pars are good and the bogey's not going to kill you. It's they're wider fairways. It's a shorter golf course. You're going to have shorter clubs in. You're going to ultimately have shorter putts. It's, it's just a different kind of style golf. The rough's not as thick. You're going to reach all the par 5s with a good drive. It's just totally different golf. Your US Open pars are good. John Deere, you just try to make birdies.
And what did you find different in your second US Open than Shinnecock?
I was more comfortable this time around. Just I knew what to expect, kind of how the whole operation is. Everything's done on such a grand scale. How to prepare. it was just, the Shinnecock, when I got there, it was, you step on property, you're like, wow, this is large. This is, this is huge. Everything's done, to the grandest scale it can be done. So yeah, showing up at the country club, I knew what to expect, and just kind of, if I do my thing, not worry about what other people are doing, I'll be fine.
Yeah, it was fun to watch Southern Hills on TV. It's a big golf course. Did you feel like a lot of the holes set up pretty decently for you? Like, and when you were practicing that week and going around the course with the caddy, what was your overall, thoughts on the course?
Actually, I just realized that's the PGA. It was the
Yeah,
country
excuse me,
club
the
for
PGA.
US
The
Open.
country
Yeah.
club.
Yeah.
I think the country club it's one of those courses I've never really understood. People say, oh, I could play this golf course for the rest of my life. It's that kind of place. I've never really understood that. And then stepping foot on the country club, it was really cool. Old school, they built it with dynamite and horses. Like, they didn't, the landscape is landscape. You play through rock outcroppings, and it's just really cool. I liked every hole. The 11th hole was like 125 yards. You could throw it on the green, and it was like, I think I played it in +2. Like, you could make a mess of the thing real quick. It was just very unique. It had a great mixture of long and short holes, very fair. If anybody complained, I always say they were just playing bad, because it was such a fair setup. It was just really difficult. Yeah, I don't know. I just like the way it looked. If it looks good to my eye, you feel good about it.
Chris, on really fast screens, which makes us always think of the US Open. I mean, you always play on fast screens. Do you change anything mechanically with your stroke or your setup? Just curious, or do you just really focused? Obviously, speed is such a premium.
Yeah, I don't change anything. I actually think, the more you play on fast screens, the easier it is to make putts. The ball rolls truer, holds its line better. Just the average player doesn't get to see that often. So when they get on fast screens, they kind of freak out a little bit.
Right.
If you
just get it started.
It's just it's a smaller stroke. I think it's easier to, maintain that stroke. It's half of what it probably would be, so shouldn't go too awry. But yeah, I like, the faster the better for me.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, we've been talking about this all year. We've been saying this is the year of the short game, meaning we've been trying to tell people, myself included, that instead of spending 99% of our time at the range, we need to do at least 50-50. So if I'm going to go and practice for an hour, I need to do 50% at the range, 50% at the short game area. And I've started to see some big changes. We've gotten a ton of messages that other people have as well. But at my bachelor party, like I mentioned, Cermak and I were playing together as a team, and I started taking shots or making a motion at the wrong times. So I might have a ball that's sitting down a little bit and taking the same motion that I do with a ball that's sitting up. And Serm's always told me, Serm has a great short game. Serm's always told me the lie dictates the shot. But I wanted to ask you, help people understand, if they're starting from zero, what are some things that has helped you practice different shots around the green, have a better short game, have good touch, understand what to do with different lies? Because what I was talking to Serm about, it's kind of difficult to commit, where if you have a motion that produces consistent feel, good contact, you probably are going to want to lean into that out of just pure confidence. But then if that doesn't work for the shot, using something you're not used to in an uncommitted way, but in a way that it calls for, it's kind of a tough balance. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Don't try something you haven't practiced, for sure.
Yeah.
I love where you're going with the short game. I think if people did it, it's not glamorous, but if you did 80% short game, 20% hitting, you'd probably play even better, because your short game bails you out more often than not. And it's, being able to get it up and down, or, turning a 6 into a 5, is going to give you more confidence in your long game anyway.
Yep.
That's what we were just talking about off air. Yeah.
It just frees you up, because then you're not so scared to hit it in the bunker over here. You're like, I'm not, I'm okay. I'm in a bunker. I got a chance to get it up and down for par. It's not going to kill me. Where, if you don't practice, you're terrified.
Right. So how do you practice your short game?
I play games. I have multiple little games I play. I use TrackMan for wedges, getting distance for, 60 to like 130. But around the green, I play a game where there's like 30 points, and I'll take 3 balls and I'll chip them around the various flags, and at least one ball has to get inside a club length to get a point. If you don't get any of them, you subtract, and you get 3 for a make, and you just go until you get 30 points. So it could be 30 minutes or it could be an hour and a half. Just depends on the day and maybe the shots you choose. But yeah, a lot of it is reading lies. The lie does dictate the shot. I agree with that 100%. Different techniques for different lies.
So all different flags, throw a ball, 3 balls in different positions, rarely the same shot twice, I assume.
Yeah, bunkers, fairway grass, rough. You just learn what different lies do. Like, if it's buried, it's gonna release. If it's not buried, you might be able to, spin it a little bit. And then you got to put that in the memory bank.
Chris, do you have a Chris Naegel specialty shot around the green? Some are very good putters from far off the green. Some use the old 5-wood. Some can pull out a 6-iron, and do wonders with it on a long chip. I was just curious, like something in your arsenal that you can lean on or bring out once in a while.
I don't know. That's a good question. I use a 60 pretty much for every shot, unless I got to like run it up a hill. Then I might go 55 or 50.
Sure.
I think the greens have gotten so fast that, chipping with a 9-iron is not really an option, or 8-iron.
It's just not conducive. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just going to it's going to go to the other side of the fringe. So, I think a lot of guys go to the 60 or 55 or 56 or whatever their middle wedge might be. Use height to stop it rather than letting it run out. It's just a little more predictable. If you do the same thing over and over, you get pretty good at it.
Yeah. My brother's talked about that. Kind of a one club chipper, and the tougher the greens are, the smaller they are, faster. Just got to get good at checking and spinning it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you would you recommend that to the average guy that's playing on random courses, or do you think for the average player, it's better to have different clubs for different shots?
I would tell the average player to use like their middle wedge, open it up a little bit, use some bounce, rather than the 60 is kind of like a specialty club, right? You don't really use it unless you're around the green, and you're opening it up. So you're showing a lot of loft. It's hard to get grip on the ball unless you're doing it day in and day out. So I would tell them to just use their middle wedge. They got a little more face showing. They can still kind of get some spin on it, a little more predictable. Probably playing on greens that are a little softer, a little slower.
Yep.
I see a lot of guys chip with their 60 that shouldn't be. They should be chipping with their 55 or 50.
Yeah. So, Chris, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you this, because keep me honest, I believe you hold the course record at Meadowbrook Country Club. Is this true?
Yeah, but it's been renovated, so it's up for grabs.
Oh, when they renovate, the course record is no longer valid?
Yeah, we got
it has to be different course. Another
130 yards longer, and new bunkering and new greens, or some of the greens have been kind of,
Ryan's coming off a 6 under, on the back 9. 69 is not going to do it for the course record, but
So Chris, I've gotten in trouble. I play the member guest there with Ryan every year, and I come from Southern California now, where I can spray it anywhere. And then I go to Meadowbrook, and you take the wrong angle and you're in jail. So I've had to unlearn the intimidation factor. I've tried to see the beauty in it, and I've tried to put less pressure on myself to be in position. From a former course record holder, to me, how do I play? What's the best way to play Meadowbrook Country Club for an average player? What would you say?
Well, are you playing the fall member guest, or did you play it the member guest a couple weeks ago?
Fall.
Well, so they've removed some trees, so you might be in luck.
Oh, see, that's good.
10 looks a little different.
Yeah, 10, I'm always in the trees.
That's a good hole. Yeah.
On a hole that doesn't like look good to you, just, I don't know what your go-to shot is, but just, if it's a 3-wood, take 3-wood. I mean, get it and play. I mean, what's an extra 25 yards on a 420-yard hole? I mean, it's the difference between a wedge and a 9 or an 8 or however far you hit it. Just the main objective is to get it in play, because that's your tee shot. Your driver 3-wood is a scoring club. If you don't get it in play, you can't score. So it's a scoring club, my opinion. It's drivers a scoring club and putters a scoring club.
Yeah, 12 is always, or not 12, 11 has always been a hole that's been a intimidating, tough shot for me because I draw it, or I like to draw it. And that hole calls for a cut, and it's a par 5. And I've rarely gotten on anyways. So I probably should just hit 3-wood on 11.
Yeah, hit 3-wood, lay it up to, a wedge and do it the old fashioned way.
Yeah, totally.
Although you got some new bunkers on the left to catch you from the creek if you do hit driver.
Uh-oh.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good.
Some buffer there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I think that's good for the average player to hear, because I think it's, if you look at the decade stuff and everything, it's like, I got to hit driver. And Cermak was hitting hybrids sometimes just because it didn't. It's interesting you said that, because that's the thing that I noticed that Cermak said. It wasn't necessarily that he's trying to hit it to a certain yardage. It was more about, I'm just not quite sure on what to hit. So I'd rather hit it to the fattest spot and I can play the hole from there.
Yeah, no, so that you mentioned the decade, I agree with the decade stuff, driver, but sometimes a hole just doesn't look good to you, or you don't play it very well. I just, the stats might say hit driver, but sometimes it's just a 4-iron and take that long second shot and try to make par and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of it sometimes is just like when we were playing out in Cabo, big dog legs and hills and trouble. And sometimes you just don't know you can't find something that you like to look at with a driver. So it's like, I got to find something I'm going to like, because I know I'm going to like something on maybe the next hole or the hole after, right? It's just kind of that hole. You just got to play it a little different because it's just how you feel.
Yeah. Comfort. Statistics tell you one thing, but if you're feeling odd about it, you got to trust your gut, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, that's what Morikawa tells his coach. And we've had his coach on twice, and Morikawa is all about comfort. The guy could probably hit every shot, but he hits his shot, even at I think it was at the US Open. He was hitting draws. He's been a cutter for forever. How long? And he went with the draw, just because that's kind of what was there. So
yeah,
a lot of what I think, what Chris is saying today is have fun, take a lot of the pressure off, save energy, and make the game easier on yourself. Like, just hit it to spots that give you the best chance, aggressively conservative still. But if a guy like Chris is trying to hit it to 25 feet from the hole, I think we probably should aim a little bit farther away as well.
Middle of the green never moves.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it takes time to learn how to be disciplined, right, Chris? Didn't happen overnight.
Sure. It's sometimes it's hard. I mean, you have a 9-iron or a wedge in your hand, and you feel like you should just stuff it in there. And sometimes you just gotta aim a little left or a little right and take your 8 to 25 footer. I mean, It's always interesting looking at like proximity to the hole for tour players, and you tell that to the average player and they're like, no, that's not right. Well, I'm like, well, there's the stats. So, cause they think you should hit a sand wedge to 3 feet every hole. And it's like, I think the average from 100 yards is like 18 feet. So that means there's some 10 footers and there's some 30 footers,
Yeah.
I think
all over the map.
It's a great point because typically the telecast is just the great shots, but
the highlight.
Major weeks when you can watch the stream of every shot, every player, that's what people really need to take away. And like you said, everybody hits crazy shots and terrible putts, but you guys just get to the next better,
Yeah, you just recover a little quicker. Yeah, you go watch the guy that's in 75th place and you're like, I can hit that shot.
Yeah, that was the thing that really stuck out to me when I walked Riviera this past year. I would highly recommend anyone that's ever not gone to a golf event by themselves. It's actually an amazing experience just to walk the course, be on your own, watch shots. I mean, that's the thing that stood out to me is they're hitting it all over the map, but they're putting it to 3 feet around the greens, no matter where, they are, at least a 8-footer in to give themselves a look. And a lot of times they're hooping that. So you're right. I mean, maybe we could all be spending 80% of our time around the greens, just practicing different lies, different clubs, different feels.
Yeah. Chris doesn't want to hear 50, 80.
80, at least 80.
Well, see, it's funny, Chris. I went yesterday. I went straight to the short game area, and I admit I got really frustrated because there's people around, and I'm trying to practice more of a draw type shot, whereas my other is kind of like light hands, kind of a cut, light motion, and that was terrible. Like terrible chunks over the, like hardly any even on the green. I'm talking short, long, everything. And it's like I just started my first session of trying to work through shots. And it's like, I got to remember, well, clearly that's part of it. I have to find it in the dirt of what's working and use that to understand how to hit it better the next time. That's part of it.
Yeah. One of the best tips I ever got was from Jay Delson. He played the tour for many years.
Yeah.
And he would always just put a tee in the green and try to land the ball on the tee. It took mechanics out. It took everything out. It was your only goal was try to hit that, land the ball on the tee. And that's you're trying to hit it to a spot and then let it release to a hole or whatever. So you just try to hit the tee. If you're getting it within a foot of that tee, you're probably hitting really good shots. You're giving yourself some room for error. You're not worried about, other things. You're just trying to get it to that tee.
Well, Chris, it's because we always, the long game, talk about target, but with short game, it seems to disappear a lot. And to your point, you just got to get back to target, right?
Yeah.
That's your goal.
In the short game, you're trying to hit a spot. Just hit your spot.
Yeah.
Find where you got to hit the spot and then how far it's going to release. Hit your spot. We make it so complicated. Doesn't have to be that complicated.
And also, I wasn't playing a game, so that would have made it more fun too. If I was actually making a game out of it,
that would have freed you up
instead of getting down on myself for not hitting it close. My first freaking time trying new stuff.
That's it. Like guys, I see guys, they'll go out to the chipping green. They got they pull a bag of 50 balls and they hit the same shot 50 times. And it's like, I don't know what that does for you. Right. Play games, mix it up. If you're, never hit more than the same shot 4 times, 5 times, maybe just move around. That's how you get better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Well, Chris, as always, we're always cheering you on. You beat a lot of great guys at the US Open, Bryson DeChambeau, Victor Hovland, Furyk, Phil, Sergio. I mean, the list goes on. So clearly we know you can play out there. You can be out there with anyone, it. And you know what, Chris, we're excited to see you have a lot of fun this week with those Barbasol cans on the tee box.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we're ready to see you take care of business. Thank you for hopping aboard, Chris. We appreciate it.
Yeah. We're rooting for you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Good to talking to you boys.
You too, man.
See you.